Is there one call or even a couple that stand out as being kind of the most memorable?
Yeah, there was one that stands out. It's pretty memorable. Um, we were on our way out from a target, and there were some squirters, and there was a lot going on. There's a firefight here, there's a firefight there. Some of the guys that I was working around, I learned later through my path, like how amazing they were. Because when you're at a team, everyone's awesome. You know, but if all the awesome guys know who the legendary guys are, those guys are really awesome, right?
Yeah.
And so I got to work around a few of those guys, right?
Yeah.
But on this night, we're making our way back out, and as we're making our way back out, the tail end of the patrol starts getting lit up from this big building, like this big compound thing with a bunch of fighters on top, a bunch of bad guys. And so as we're walking out, we're having to stop, let those guys like deal with the problem until they're sort of ready to move again. And so it's just started hanging us up, and we're falling behind on, getting picked up by our helo ride. So troop chief is like, "Hey, I want JDAMs on that building. Kill it, just kill it, get rid of those guys." So I do a 9 line. I stop. I'm like, "All right." I do a 9 line. I'm so excited, and it's two F-15s, right? And I'm like calling up, "Hey, we're getting lit up from this." And they're like, "Yeah, we see that. You guys are, they got a PKM up there or two. They got a bunch of, I think they fired an RPG at the back end of our patrol. So it's like, hey, we're hunkered down. We can't really get up and move because they're on us." And so we do a call. We drop two JDAMs as they're on their way down. Like, "Hey guys, we're 30 seconds." Troop chief's like, "All right, hey, 30 seconds. Soon as it's a double hit, right? Simultaneous." And so it's like, soon as it goes off, everybody get up and start walking because we got to go. We're running out of time, right? And the helos are burning, like they're loitering because we're delayed, right? Now it's a hard decision because, like, do we land them somewhere? That's dangerous too. So we're walking out, and then the coolest part was we start walking while we're 30 seconds out. The first one explodes, just this big mushroom cloud. And we start walking, and as we're walking, I'm like, "Hey, the other one's going to hit any second now." And then, so it's like we're kind of in this movie scene where we're walking away from a target, and two huge explosions are going off.
It's the cool guys never turn around and look at the explosion type of feeling.
Yeah, yeah, it was exactly. But we all stopped and watched, like,
Yeah.
and I remember watching, going like, "Hey, I'm nobody on this team, but I got to do this call," and it was cool enough that the whole patrol, you know, is stopping, and I'm like looking on my night vision goggles left and right, and I see everybody stopping and like watching this thing. I'm like, that was cool.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of go, "All right, let's go get on the helos."
15 seconds of fame.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, fuck, that's really cool. Do you remember about how far away you were from that when they went off?
I think we were probably about. I was in sort of towards the middle of the patrol, so I think in total we were probably like 500 meters.
Yeah.
The back of the patrol was probably a lot closer, like a couple hundred meters away.
Yeah. So I mean, that's it rocked you a fair bit, I imagine.
Where I was at, it didn't. You could feel the sort of the blast wave kind of,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like it wasn't like being close to a breach that kind of gave you a
Yeah.
headache, afterwards. It wasn't too close, but it was like you could feel the heat. The explosion was huge.
And I imagine that the target went silent after that.
Definitely, for sure, went silent.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah. The damage was like, hey, you guys can
Yeah.
go ahead and walk.
Yeah. You can take your boots off. Before we get into you screening and then ultimately your dev group career, I did want to talk about your Team 10 Iraq deployment. It was your first deployment, right?
Yeah,
And it was pretty busy.
it was real busy. Yeah.
What year was that?
That was 2006 going into 2007.
Oh, wow. So like right at the height of the Iraq War, pretty much. Were you in the Triangle region, or where were you guys at?
We were in Baghdad. Yeah, so we were operating in Sadr City mostly, trying to figure that whole game out, and then bouncing around to like Baqubah and Amarah pretty often for other ops.
Yeah. What was the gist, I guess, like before you went there? Was there a kind of a 30,000-foot view pitch to you guys from leadership of saying, hey, this is the area we're going, here's our objective, here's what we're going to be doing to give you a heads up? Or was it
Yeah, for sure. We got a good amount of heads up because it was a special situation for us. We got to do ops within the network of the tier one network that the Devgru guys were doing because there was just so much going on. So they allowed, you know, non JSOC guys to use JSOC assets, and so we got to. That was cool because I would have never otherwise probably gotten to ride on too many little birds and 1/60th platforms too much before that.
In terms of op tempo and the duration of the deployment, were you guys going out most nights? Like, was it busy that way?
Yeah, we were going out most nights.
Was it all assault type stuff, or what were you doing?
Yeah, it was like all nighttime direct action.
Yeah.
With the exception of one hospital we assaulted looking for a guy that was injured on a previous op that we did, and we found out he was there, so we went into a daytime raid of this this hospital, grabbed that guy up. It was that was just pretty easy. It wasn't like a violent raid. We went to the front desk and said, "Where's this guy at?"
Like a scene out of ER.
Absolutely, yeah. Except you didn't have to wait in the waiting room.
Yeah. I guess kind of similarly during that deployment, do any of the operations? I mean, it sounds like you went on hundreds of them, or at least dozens.
Yeah, I think we must have went on 80 or 90, maybe 100.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure, but it was a 6 month, full deployment.
Do any of them, I guess, in two ways, does one or two stand out in a good way where it was just like this flawless ass kicking on your guys' side?
Oh, yeah.
And on the flip side, did any of them go horribly wrong or sideways?
Yeah, most of them, like I said, this troop of guys, I don't know. There was some kind of special bond that we just had going on. You always got your hangups and problems, just like in business. It's like, man, overall, it's awesome.
But this fucking guy,
the team's like, we know what's going on, so I think that's probably true at every level. But overall, like a championship winning team, like that's what I felt like we had, So like even the lowest guy or even the worst guy was great.
Yeah.
Mostly. So yeah, there were so many ops we went on where it was like, man, the guy popped off. We had our shit squared away, so we we were on alerts at that point. So if a bad guy pinged, with the capabilities we had at the time to track that, we were like, hey, we're green, we're orange, we're red. So red is going. We're loading up. So the Humvees were always ready, squared away to go. The planners for the helos, like whatever we just got into a rhythm where it was really efficient. So they're like, hey, we're in orange right now, so everybody can kind of go play Mario Kart or whatever, and just know, like, just, hey, your kit needs to be ready to go. And we got it to a point where if we were just chilling, not knowing if we were going to go out that night or not, it would pop off and we could be gone in 10 minutes. It was crazy because that's tough to do, because if you fast forward to when I was at Devgru and later in the Afghanistan war, for sure, when we started to get really restricting ROEs, and had to like a quick, op org or mission planning thing, like a brief before the mission could happen. Like we got it to where we were like 5-10 minutes in Iraq.
Yeah.
Right, with all the contingency plans and everything, and we go. Fast forward, some years to what I experienced in Afghanistan. It was like, this brief is 50 pages long now because guys have had time to impress the leadership with their briefs. And by the time it's done, we're looking at each other going like, do you guys remember what we're supposed to do on the target? Because the comm slide was 10 pages and this slide was, so we had to actually figure out a game of going like, hey, after the brief, we all got to get together real quick and go. Does everybody understand what we're doing on target? Like actions on, most important thing for the operators. And, so yeah, we got pretty efficient with that.
Yeah. Was there a mission or two that you could kind of walk us through that went textbook, that you guys really kicked ass and it went flawless?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, man, that was a while ago. So many. I mean, from day to day, and I don't remember a lot of the bad guys' names or anything, but there was a network of Sadr City guys that we were going after that were really terrible. I mean, that was in the heyday of that, where they were, doing things within their own communities to sort of strike fear into people to go, hey, if you help the Americans at all, this is what's going to happen to you. And it's like somebody's head's in a basket, you know? So it was like deep, real fear, you know, among people. Even when we're interrogating people, they're like, you know, they're so afraid to give us information because they're stuck in a bad place. They're like, these guys are gonna harm me if we don't tell them the information, and then or detain us, and then these guys are gonna cut our heads off if we do, you know. So we were going after those kind of guys, and I think I remember one night earlier on, this might have been like the third or fourth mission we were on. We were going out after a guy that was in a little house that had like the second floor of it was like a animal pen.
Oh,
Like,
really?
yeah, so it had like the goats and the hay and all, but it was on the second floor. So the bad guy was like hiding in one of those sort of piles of hay on the second floor, and we couldn't find him. And we're like, we know he's here, so we do the initial clearance, and we find the guy, but then there's a follow-on to another dude in the target that our interrogator, who was really good at the time, hey, there's another dude in this network that's higher than this guy that's like down the street. So I remember our platoon chief called an audible. He's like, hey, we got some time still because we did this pretty quickly. You know, instead of rolling back, we're gonna use our time, right? Still got a couple of hours of time left, so we're gonna go find this dude. So we go down the street, we detain this guy, we go down the street, get into a little tick on the side, and you know, those guys handle it. So it's like, hey, we're good to go over here. All right, cool. We're moving on. We're not getting hung up on that. And at the same time, there's people in Sadr City that are doing recon by fire, so that you know their response guys, their QRF per se, can start to sort of surround you. And that was their tactic every time. It's like, hey, as soon as we figure out where they're at, we're going to start to try to get around them, try to circle around them. So you had to like be pretty efficient to leave as quickly as you could before you got into a big fight that you didn't want to be in, you know? So on this particular target, we go and we don't find the guy at the house that the bad guy's telling us through interrogation. So he's like, I'm telling you, he lives here, he's hiding, whatever. So we ended up clearing like that whole street of houses, and we find the guy at a different house. So, but my point is that to go do an audible like that and then go clear like a whole street of a neighborhood like that is, you got to be confident, you know, in your guys to do that, right? Because as soon as somebody gets shot or goes down or whatever, it can turn into a shit show.
Oh.
And you know, there's other situations where it did turn into a shit show, but I just remember that we had the trust among that team that like we were going to get through things.
Yeah.
So that specific op, we ended up finding him and getting back in time, you know, and so that was a big deal because when we got back, I remember the head shed all like getting a lot of kudos for that decision. Like, hey, you went and got 2 guys off the network because you had a little bit of time left and confidence enough to go after the second dude.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's also pretty rare that you see a regular SEAL platoon and it being your first deployment, being that well-oiled and that cohesive of a unit. Obviously, it happens. I do kind of feel like my first platoon was a little bit that way. Even though there were 5 new guys in it, the experienced guys were all just really solid dudes, you know, phenomenal operators, incredibly knowledgeable, experts at everything, and we're also, I would say, masterful at mentorship and really bringing all of us up to a high enough level. I won't say their level because we just weren't, but we were good enough to keep up with them, you know, and they facilitated that. It wasn't us.
Yeah.
Their ability to bring us to that level was phenomenal. It was also a really long platoon. It was an ARG Alpha, you know, so we did 20 months. Our workup was 20 or 22 months. And, you know, it was like 18 months of a workup and then 7 or 8 months of fleet X's, just tons of them back to back to back. And then we fucking deployed. So it was like almost a 3-year platoon, you know, which to be a new guy for 3 years isn't exactly the fucking deal.
Yeah.
But it was good because I learned so fucking much on that. You know, and we did so
Yeah.
many different things. Being an ARG, you kind of had to be ready to do just about anything.
Yeah. Dude, that team specifically had a couple deployments worth of that op tempo to get that good and efficient. So it's like I just kind of lucked out where I landed on my first
Yeah.
team. You
Just
know?
fell into a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, because I had plenty of friends in other teams and West Coast teams that like that wasn't the case, and they were like, you know, they wanted to get out of the teams after their first deployment. You know, like this is bullshit. I'm not gonna, you know. So I just lucked out that I went right into, you know, heavy combat with a really good team, and it kind of inspired me to keep going.
Yeah. Was there an operation on that Iraq deployment that went completely fucking wrong that stands out as being kind of the worst case scenario?
Yeah, I brought this one up before too, but we did hit an IED and 3 guys got killed one night where we were
3 of
doing-
your guys?
Yeah, 3 of our guys. So Jason Lewis was one of them.
Oh, wow.
Steve Doherty was another guy. He was the TIO type dude, the technical surveillance guy, and a combat cameraman. And the craziest thing is the combat cameraman was on his way to Buds after working with us for some months, and good guy. And his replacement, because they were at that time, somebody in the Navy, I don't know who was, they were trying to document some of this, and they had these combat camera guys that were trained up to go capture content, you know. And he shipped back to us because his replacement wasn't going to make it or something. We still and we still needed that guy, so he came back, and then this happened. So he never made it to Buds, but yeah, we were out that night after somebody in Sadr City, and we were using Humvees, you know, all the time. We got really efficient with the Humvees and our mobility tactics. And there were lots of times where IEDs missed us, you know, as we were zooming around at night, either in front of us or between the cars or behind us, you know. And at that time, we had those heavy jammers going on, which I've got opinions about that too, because there's been so many guys that were around those that have popped just like sudden brain tumors. And yeah, I've got so many buddies that brain tumor thing that was happening from guys in that era. And I don't have any awareness of if it's still happening at that rate, but for sure the guys that were rolling around Iraq and Afghanistan with heavy jammers, I think it's a little bit connected, you know, but that's a side point. So we went to a target, and another time where, hey, we've got more time, and we've got sort of a stay behind, you know, audio device kind of thing for some of the surveillance guys at a different target, and we need to go collect that because it's going to help us gain intel on some of the higher dudes in the network. But you're always after those guys as a priority. So another audible, you know, but I remember this turned into a shit show because my opinion is that the senior leadership, the troop chief type, decided not to necessarily take the advice of his platoon chiefs, who are 2 really smart guys, a lot of experience. And so like, hey, this is not a good idea. This time it's going to take us deeper into Sadr City and then take us longer to get out, you know, according to the timeline that we have. So they decided to risk it and go for it, be aggressive. So that's the back and forth with operators, is like, hey, you want your leaders to be aggressive so we can go get after it and do work. But then if bad things happen, they can also get scrutinized to go, man, we were too aggressive in that one, and we learned a lesson. We lost some guys, you know. You want to bring everybody back, but at the same time be aggressive.
Yeah.
Just part of war. So they made that decision. We went there, got the device, we're on our way back, and we catch a flat tire on one of the Humvees that's up front, so it causes us to now be driving like half speed or even worse. And right on the last turn to get onto, you know, the main MSR to get back out of Sadr City, which there was only one, was where they set up this EFP IED shape charge, and it kicked off and hit like the 3rd or 4th vehicle and killed those guys in the back. And you know, the navigator of the convoy, which was in my truck, Nick Check actually, got us to like a little fob, like a marine fob that was like right on the edge of Sadr City. And that's where we went to sort of medevac. And it turned into a shit show after that. I mean, shooting all over the place. We're hobbling our way over to this fob. We do a medevac. We end up staying there, and then we're watching guys try to set up IEDs and stuff for us on the way out the next night. And yeah, it just sucks, man. Whenever there's a firefight or something that turns into a shit show, it's tough because you got to stay strong as a team to not then go. There's lots of resentments and lots of infighting and things that can happen when you're like, man, we shouldn't have done this or that when something bad happens, and you're looking for people to blame. But war is also war at the same time. So it's like, as a team, you got to get over that and get past it and move on and keep operating.
Was that IED that hit you guys, was that the initiation of a follow-on ambush?
Yeah, it was. We started getting ambushed from the tops of rooftops and buildings and stuff. And I was a JTAC on the op, so we started, hitting some of those with AC-130 rounds. And some of our front turret gunners were just smoke checking, some of the bad guys that were trying to approach on us with technicals and even their police cars that were part of it.
As a unit, after that happened, how much longer were you in country for?
I think that happened. I can't really remember that much. I think that we probably had another 4 months. That was a couple months in.
Wow.
I think that happened.
So it was pretty early on.
I think I remember it was pretty early on, and then we switched and started, utilizing helos a lot more often.
As a platoon, and especially as a new guy, how did you handle that kind of mentally, especially the very next time that you went out? Like, did that play a huge role in your kind of mental attitude and your approach mentally to the follow-on few missions that you went on?
Yeah, for sure. It was like kind of a wake-up call. Because while I'm kind of in my truck doing my job, I'm hearing all this on the radio. Like, man, our platoon chief was calling it out. Like, hey, this vehicle, whatever, is down. A few seconds later, everybody in the back, got hit. We've got like Jason's dead, stuff like that. Is all like pretty intense because I was the guy who did the medevac too, right? Trying to do my best for that, and yeah, I remember it's just kind of a wake up call to remember that like this shit is real. You know what I mean? It's not just we're not invincible. You know what I mean? And just like when you're a kid and you fall off of something, you think you're invincible until you fall. So, yeah, I just remember that feeling.
Have you seen the movie Warfare?
No, I don't want to go watch it.
And I got to tell you, like, I assumed it would be good. I didn't really know what to expect. I'd had a couple, buddies, team guy buddies that said, dude, you got to go see this movie. And, man, I was completely fucking floored by that movie.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard that.
Dude, I am astounded at how good of a job Ray Mendoza did and the whole team, because I know there are a lot of team guy technical advisors and stuff. But, I mean, it's easy for me to say that that's the most raw and accurate and believable, realistic combat movie I've ever seen in my life, and it's not even fucking close. Like,
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling how fucking good that movie is.
Well, dang, I want to go watch it. I get hung up sometimes with going and
Dude,
watching. I didn't watch like Lone Survivor, for example, or American Sniper. Like at first, I did sort of later because I didn't want to get too. I knew my own mentality was like I want to enjoy these stories, but it's almost like I know some of the information and some of the intel behind the after actions and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing too much like picking it apart and getting frustrated with Hollywood stuff.
Yeah, there's none of that in this.
Yeah,
None.
so like that's the first time I've ever heard that about like a SEAL, a team guy, or even like special forces movie.